Here
next
we are.
time. Hey,
Here we are. Shit.
Men in Black, you know what I'm saying? Grimoire Gang.
Hmm.
Yeah. Episode 1 of, hey man, welcome. Come one, come all, step right up, you know what I'm saying? Book Talk, welcome, I see you.
Yeah.
BookTube, I see you.
Booktube.
Facebook, I see you. You know what I mean? It's the Grimoire Gang. It's the Grimoire. You know what we talk. This is our podcast where we talk about books. You know, some of you might know us from formerly known as Tapped In. You might know us from the Grimoire Gang Murder Mysteries. You might know Indigo Father from streaming on Twitch, playing the gamey games.
Mm-hmm.
And you might know me because I be slinging art. You know what I'm saying? I'm an art street urchin.
You could catch all his works just around Denver.
If you in Denver, then you know me. If you in Denver, you and me.
That sounds crazy.
And we gonna get into it. Okay, so
that's all right. Yeah. Basic. This podcast, episode 1, we should probably, lay out what we do here. This is about to just be book. Flat description, books. We about to be talking about books. We about to be talking about what series we're reading.
In monotone.
Monotone as fuck. Yeah. You might go to sleep. You could just put this shit on.
Right, before bed. We in bed with you.
I'm laying right next to you. I'm talking in your ear.
And I'm on the other side.
I throw an arm around you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's what this podcast is.
I might bring a snack to bed. Oops, I got some crumbs in this mug.
He eating crackers in bed.
Cracker Jacks.
Cracker Jacks?
Better your bed than mine.
What is that? What's Cracker Jacks?
That's like baseball. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. That's like baseball food.
It's popcorn, right? Is it like?
I think it's just like popcorn.
Hold on, I gotta.
With caramel. While my co-host looks up what Cracker Jacks is, relatable.
Relatable content. That's what you'll find. Yo, wait, this shit used to be fire. It would have like.
It's only okay. It's only okay. You're remembering it. It's one of those nostalgic things that would be canceled today. Like there's so much better snacks. And so I don't want you to get this pod canceled before we even start.
Right.
Like Cracker Jacks.
You're right. They might have some racist ties.
Yeah, I mean Cracker Jacks. Come on. It sounds old, institutionalized. It sounds like a plantation owner back in the day had a slave that they had in the kitchen. And the slave had like a family recipe for some like Cracker Jacks. And then that plantation owner was like, oh, this is a good idea. And then he took it and then the slave died and then he made an empire off of it. And then 50 years later, they sell it at baseball games. And it's a whole thing. And we don't have to get into it.
You look into anything, yeah, you're right. We're getting off the rails here.
Because this is a book about books. Or this is a pod about books, baby.
Back to the books.
Yeah.
What you been reading?
Oh man, I've been reading Children of Blood and Bone.
Talk to me. What's it about?
So I haven't finished it yet, but it is a book. All right, so basically it's the idea behind it. The author is a black woman. Her name is Tomi Adeyemi, I think I said it, or maybe Tomi, I don't know. Her brother is Toby Lou, if you know the rapper.
Toby Lou is her brother?
Yeah. So, and yeah, super random, but big ups to that family because there's a lot of talent there. Children of Blood and Bone though. Children of Blood and Bone is like I don't even know if it's considered like medieval, but it's like a mythological Nigeria. And so like the gods that they worship in this series are the Orisha of West African mythologies, specifically like Nigerian, Yoruba people. But it's got a lot of magical suppression. some class conflict between, noble, or actually it's conflict between like the spellcasters in this world and the people that don't. Like there's like a tyrannical king who basically massacred a bunch of the mage caste, and then there's like suppression over generations. It's super tight.
That sounds
Um,
tight as fuck.
I mean, I would recommend it to anyone. You know what I'm saying?
I definitely want to get more into like black written books. No, I mostly read fantasy, and black fantasy sounds pretty fucking dope. It'd be dope, a D&D campaign based in like, African fantasy or
I
mythology.
told you I'm writing that. I'm writing that for yeah, yeah. I was writing that when we first started the murder mysteries. Um, I have like I have
Oh,
a basic outline and like a handful of creatures with like stat blocks based on that, like African mythology.
that's so
Yeah.
it'd be so tight.
I think
I
it'd
guess
be
I
super
never
dope.
thought about how most like fantasy, like it's like is like European medieval
Right.
dragons, fucking knights.
Yeah, it's all like based in either like medieval Europe, right? So like knights, just like a bunch of white
Yeah.
conflict, or like Victorian era, like England and London. Like I feel like those are like the big sort of like fantastical realms that they find it in, and then that's why like Game of Thrones, the show, there wasn't a lot of black people, right? It was like
Mhm.
Westeros is predominantly like light white skinned,
European
yeah, European, yeah. So
types.
yeah, I mean, there definitely needs to be more representation across the genre. And I think Children of Blood and Bone is like a very good sort of entry into that.
That
Getting
sounds.
into
I
that.
have to actually. You know
Yeah,
what? While I'm right here,
write
children.
it down.
I'm about to put that on. I'm about to put that on my want to read on my Goodreads.
There you go. Shout out Goodreads.
Shouts out Goodreads. We need
Goodreads sponsor us.
it sponsored. Hey,
Sponsor us,
sponsor
Goodreads.
alert. Hey, potential sponsor alert. Goodreads and Dr. Pepper. We know they listening too.
But Dr. Pepper, Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper.
I don't know, man.
I don't want to be sponsored by it. I hate Dr. Pepper. I'm not even gonna lie.
Oh,
I'll
hold
just
on, hold on.
go to my mind. I don't like it.
I like it, but this ain't a. You got to tune into the Soda Pod for a deep dive into the 23 wonderful flavors that makes up Dr. Pepper.
Nah.
What are
First
you
off,
reading, man? All right, we moving on.
I'm
What are
reading.
you reading?
Um, right now I've been reading something that has been coming across my fucking book talk TikTok page like repeatedly, and that's Sword of Kaigen.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Credence.
No, not Credence. No, 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 no. I already read that. We're not gonna talk about it.
It's okay, man. This is
One of these days we're gonna talk about it, but
hey. At some point in this, we got to go through
we gonna get to
the
it.
pinnacle of Black literature, Zane.
Who's Zane? Oh,
I'm just kidding. We don't need to go into
we
Zane.
ain't gotta talk about Zane. No, no. The pinnacle of black literature is Zane, and there's that other dude. You know who I'm
Oh,
talking about? That dude who I think his name is Quan Mills. Shouts
I
out,
don't know that one.
that nigga's fucking hilarious. He writes books like My Granddaddy Got My Niece Pregnant or some
Oh
shit
my
like.
God. I know
He got a book called like Damn This Hoe Really Got Roaches or some shit.
that one. I saw like this is getting way off topic, but years ago on Twitter, I swear I saw like those names on like the what I assume was the book covers. I thought it was a joke though.
I did too. Those are real books, bro. That's a real author, and that nigga's
We'll get
fucking
to it. We'll get
hilarious.
to it.
That nigga's hilarious. Shouts out Quan. But yeah, Sword of Kaigen. I'm about a little over halfway through it, and dude, this shit is pretty fire. I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty dope. It's like how do I explain it? So you watch Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that as far as like there are people who can control ice or water, technically, and I guess there's like a
Why
different.
technically ice and not water?
I said technically water because water is ice, but
I see, I see.
water has like more of a because they can also control like snow, and I would say water. They control water,
Right. As a base, and then water's
and then they can
other
ice,
forms.
snow,
Can
shit
they
like
can they like mess with like vapor?
that's the people that we're reading about. The people who live in Kaigan. We read about this village. We follow this character. His name is Mamoru. He's like a student from a like prolific clan. And I say just dive in. If you do plan on reading something like that, I say just dive into the shit. It's dope as fuck. The audiobook is kind of throwing me
Yeah.
because it's read by a white dude and like it's very like Japanese centric. Like they use Japanese honorifics sometimes, and the guy who's doing the audiobook fucks it up a
That's
lot.
interesting.
And
Yeah, yeah.
there's also a lot of like, Japanese words in there that he fucks up.
Dang.
It's annoying. I'm looking past it because reading audiobooks is convenient for me right now.
Right. Is the author of it, are they Japanese?
Good question. Let me look it up.
I was just curious because I always wonder about
I
like
believe so,
I
but
always wonder like how much involvement the author has in the audiobooks. Like I know Brandon Sanderson, he has his main dude, and that main dude and his main lady for like the different POVs. But like sometimes audiobooks really are just not tight. What is it? What'd you find?
so it says the author, their name is L. Wang, right? And I'm looking on Amazon and it says about the author. M.L. Wang is a weird recluse, probably in a small room somewhere planting tomatoes and talking to them. That's the
That's
that
it?
that's wait, read full bio. Yeah, that's it. That's all there is. Literally, that's the entire bio.
I don't know about that, man.
What?
I don't trust that.
I do trust that. I like the mystery.
But I don't know, man. I feel like
No,
I feel like
I think they probably are Japanese or at least some sort of Asian. Her
I
name is
hope.
M.L. Wang. Let me
I
see.
know, but that also kind of sounds like
Oh, what?
it sounds like a pen name. You know what I mean? Like,
I
okay,
know.
say I was a white dude that really liked Japanese culture and I
You're
wanted to
making a good
write like
point
a
there,
book
yeah.
around Japanese culture, but then it was like, oh, but I'm not Japanese, so I'll do a pen name. What's a good pen name? ML Wang. You know what I mean? Like, I don't trust that.
You make it pretty good.
Also, some names just sound like shyster names.
What the fuck, dude? Okay, so I just went to the website. I just went to
I
the
don't know if I want to know, man.
MLWangBooks.com. It says, "Hi, I'm ML Wang, author, martial artist, and weird recluse, currently hiding somewhere in Wisconsin with my maroon-bellied parakeet Sulu. I enjoy gruesome nature documentaries and long walks in circles around my."
Oh, Wang, talk to us, man.
What's
Come
going on?
on the pod.
He,
Let's get.
he could just be a Japanese dude
He
from
totally can.
really be
Totally can.
from West.
And I will say the recluse part of that, it like kind of plays into
Japanese thing.
what I know of like mangakas being like reclusive and
Yeah,
also just like
well,
private because
they are
people are,
too. So
yeah, I mean,
we're not adding up a little bit. So
uh,
you really, that's kind of,
I just I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. I've grown too skeptical in today's
hard not to be.
yeah, you got that. I'm not even going to it. But let's get into why we're really here. What made us start this is the works of a pretty well-known author by the name of Brandon Sanderson.
Yeah, young B Rain.
Yeah,
Young
whose
B Rain saying,
works in the cosmere are prolific. You know, me and Eric here have like read through some of the Stormlights. I've read through all of the books at this point. You know what I'm saying? I don't mean to toot my own horn, but it's no easy thing.
Not to interrupt you, but we probably should have said who we were at the top.
Oh yeah. I'm Marcus.
Yeah.
That's Eric.
Hey,
And we are the Grimoire gang.
we're the Grimoire gang. Yeah. That's all we need to know, truly.
Yeah, honestly. But that being said, we're talking about the first, a lot of people's first entry into the works of Brandon Sanderson. When I had first heard of Brandon Sanderson, it was specifically Mistborn, Era 1.
Really?
The trilogy. Yeah, because at the point, someone first told me about Brandon Sanderson when they were telling me about Mistborn.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think at that time Stormlight had come out. And so, the first book was like the Final Empire, book 1, Era 1 of Mistborn. And like each episode we'll summarize each book. And there's a lot to get through. I think Mistborn's like a pretty good entry point. Considering Stormlight is so almost like expansive. You know what I mean?
We are massive Stormlight truthers.
Yeah. That's
But
right.
I actually started out reading Stormlight because of you. You recommended me Stormlight.
Yeah.
And that was a deep dive. I had no floaties on diving into Stormlight. That was a deep ass dive.
Yeah.
I read Stormlight book 1 and 2, and then I went back and read Mistborn. Right now I'm on Mistborn Era 2 book 4, which is the last one in the series.
Yeah.
I think I might go back and read Oathbringer book 3 of Stormlight before reading book 4 of Era 2. But there's like guides and shit that you can go through. Honestly, I'm not really using a guide other than our humble monk Omega Marcus is here. He's my Brandon Sanderson guide.
And honestly, it changes. I feel like those guides change every year based on like what's coming out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so just to like reestablish, Stormlight is a different book series set in the same universe as this Mistborn, and it's all called the Cosmere. And there are several book series. The main book series that Brandon Sanderson has said that sort of anchor the Cosmere to him are the Stormlight books, of which there are 4 currently, and then the Mistborn books, of which there are 7 currently across 2 different eras, so different characters. And then the last anchor for the Cosmere is the Elantris book, which is actually Brandon Sanderson's first book that he published, but there's only one book so far. One book and like one sort of like short story accompaniment. They call it Elantris 1.5.
Yep. So essentially I don't know if you want to call it a goal, but what we're going to be doing in this podcast is we're going to try to be covering multiple series, like, what would you even call like what would you call the Cosmere? What would you call that? Like
Cosmere,
like universes or whatever.
yeah, book universe.
Right.
I mean, definitely think the Cosmere will be the largest collection. Like, if we try to go through all the Cosmere, we'll see how. Yeah, we'll see how it falls. But we want to go through a couple of different book series.
Yeah.
And I think right now we have like Mistborn and Stormlight on the docket for sure.
Yeah.
And we might venture out and come back to the Cosmere to kind of even it out. But for now,
yeah, there'll be like standalone books and shit that we'll cover. We're just gonna cover some shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just stay tuned. You'll know where we're going. If you want to like keep up with what we're gonna be covering, we'll likely be announcing it on the previous episode, so you'll know what to read if you want to come and just see what the fuck we talking about.
Right.
Hey, point of view is on it, like how we fucked with it and shit.
Right. And so,
go ahead.
Getting into it. You ready to get into it? You ready to
get into it?
You ready to dive into this Ashfield pool?
Yeah, the Ashlands. Yep. So what we're gonna talk about first, the first one that we are covering is going to be Mistborn Era 1, Book 1. What's the name of it?
The
Mist
Final Empire.
Final Empire, yes.
Yeah.
And the Final Empire it was, I think.
Yeah, the Final Empire. It's interesting because he wrote this book. Like, so he has a lot of commentary on like why he writes books or sort of what his goal is. And his goal with this book was to sort of set up the premise that the story takes place after the main bad guy, like the Dark Lord, had already won.
Yep.
I think he was inspired by Harry Potter a little bit. Like this book is like if Voldemort won in Harry Potter meets Ocean's 11. I think that's like his like official thing. The Final Empire takes place on this planet spiraling out in the cosmere called Scadrial. And Scadrial is honestly a fucking dump. I mean, there couldn't have been it's like one of my least. There are some like messed up planets in Brandon Sanderson's, but Era 1 Mistborn, Scadrial, covered in ash, ruled by a tyrant. There's like no flowers.
What, slaves?
Yeah, and then like society is sort of broken up into these almost subhuman beings called Ska, but they're still very much human, but they're just like kind of stunted. And you get the feeling that a lot of that comes from just malnutrition. The fact that there's always ash falling from the sky, and I think they can only grow like a very limited amount of things. Like there's meat, but there's like potatoes or like
potatoes. I think they do potatoes.
It's a lot of potatoes that grow in ash, and so like the Ska are essentially like the lower class, like indentured serfs, and then you have the nobles who and then the Lord Ruler, this tyrant, this Dark Lord, sort of presides over all of it, with an iron fist, and it's pretty messed up from the jump.
The Lord Ruler is essentially like a living god.
Yeah.
Like he's literally like the god of this planet who lives kind of like in town, basically. Like he's just like around the corner at his like fucking mansion chilling.
Yeah. And when we say like in town, it's not a very large world. So there's like only a couple of cities on Scadrial in Era 1. And so like, yeah, he lives in Luthadel, and he has kind of like a Gothic cathedral type like castle domicile.
Mm-hmm. Very Gothic, spires and shit everywhere.
Spires, yeah.
We love spires.
Yeah, we do. This could be called a Spirecast, you know what I'm saying?
I fuck with that actually.
Yeah, honestly. We'll talk.
We'll talk about spires,
Yeah. But the book opens, it introduces this sort of mythological Ska character. Well, he's half Ska, right? Kelsier. And Kelsier is sort of like, he's kind of introduced like a folk hero, the what do they call him? The survivor of Hath Sin?
Survivor, yep.
Yeah, or the survivor. So yeah, he rolls in to this Ska camp who, have been working on a plantation basically, and he's filling these other Skas with like stories of basically overthrowing the Lord Ruler. He's sowing dissent. And then there's talk of a girl that was kidnapped by the local noble that they work for, and Kelsier is like, I'll be back in a jiffy. And a little while later, the noble's house is on fire and everybody's dead. And I should also mention, on this planet where there's ash, there's also these very kind of strange mists. And the mists sort of settle and coalesce in spaces. And the Ska class are very superstitious of the mist. They don't go out in the mist. They're terrified of the mist. There's a lot of kind of supernatural.
Yeah. So when like Kelsier goes out into the mist, like all willy-nilly. They're all looking at him crazy, like he's out of his fucking mind. And they, what's funny is they don't ever really like say why they're so afraid of the mist. It's like an innate thing that they fear the mist. Like I know that they are afraid of mist wraiths, which is something that, is explained later on in the book, but it's not even like anybody has ever, like contextually, people haven't even seen any mist wraiths. They're just like afraid. And that's just kind of one of the things that their mind goes to. But one big thing about this world is there is a magic system, and it's one of the most interesting magic systems that I've come across so far in like reading fantasy books, and it's called allomancy. And allomancy is essentially kind of what it sounds like. If you consume a certain alloy or metal, you can like activate it in your stomach to gain a certain ability. For instance, if you swallowed some iron, like some iron flakes or some shit like that, you swallow some iron flakes, you can feel the reserves of it in your body and you can like activate it. They call it like burning it. You burn iron and you can, I think iron is like pushing, right?
I don't remember. It's either
Yeah.
an iron
So
push or an iron or
it's like
iron
steel
pull.
or iron, one of those. They'll think those are like opposite. So
Right.
you burn iron, you can push any metal, like, well, not any metal, but basically you can push on any metal directly, like from its trajectory towards you. So,
Iron pulls,
oh,
steel
iron
pushes.
pulls, steel push.
Yeah.
Okay, so steel. So say you're burning steel, you consume some steel and you burn steel, because you're an allomancer and you can do that. You can push on a metal. So the laws of it are kind of like stagnant. Like you can't like it's not like telekinesis where you can just like make metal fly all over or control it. You can only push it in the direction that you push it.
If you're
And
burning steel.
yeah, if you're burning steel. And there's also rules to pushing it. Like if you push on something that's heavier than you will go back. You'll push yourself
Right,
basically.
right.
Push on something lighter than you'll push that thing away from you. And say you push like a coin, which is something that they use a lot in the books. They push on like metal coins. They can use like as like weapons or whatever. But say you push like a metal coin up against a wall. You're pushing on the metal coin. The coin is lighter than you, but when it hits the wall, it's the wall is heavier. So you'll push yourself back. And it's easy to like, fuck that up if you're not like, a good allomancer or whatever.
Right.
But there's all types of things you can do.
And yeah, each metal, we don't have to go into all of
Yeah,
them.
we'll probably. I mean,
But each metal has its own property. And each person, like a lot of nobles are born that can only burn one of these metals, but then there's a smaller percentage that can burn every metal, and that's where you get the name Mistborn, because they can push every metal.
and Kelsier, one of the main characters of the book, is a mist. It's a rare trait where you can burn all of the metals. There's mistings, which can burn one metal, and then there's Mistborn, which can like burn all of them, and they're like the most powerful ones. Like other than the Lord Ruler, Mistborn are the most powerful people there. So essentially, you're following Kelsier. He's like spreading rumors about the Lord Ruler, about how he knows a way that he can beat him. And he's spreading this amongst the Ska, like the slave people, because he wants to basically start a massive rebellion against the Lord Ruler to overthrow him or kill him so the Ska don't have to live in fucking slavery anymore for the rest of everybody's existence. As you follow him, you kind of switch to another character who will also be the like co-main character.
She's like the main character, though.
She's the main character, but I mean, yeah, she's the main character. But
She's the main character.
in book one, I would say they're both the main character. You follow both of them. You like the story is narrated from both their perspectives.
But her name's Vin.
Her name is Vin. Yeah, she is a Ska, and she is basically in a position where she is like in the like possession of a like what would you call him, like kind of like a mob boss, I think
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
thieves guild type.
yeah, like a thieves guild.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So she's like in his possession, and he is using her to. I mean, he's basically using her for anything. Like
right.
he brings her along on their like thieving missions. He says she's his. She says she's his like good. He says she's his like good luck charm or some shit like that. But in reality, we find out that Vin is also a Mistborn, and this guy has been bringing her around, using her Mistborn powers to like influence people using brass. Is it brass? I believe it's brass
To like,
to push in their emotions, right?
maybe dampens emotions.
Dampens
Zinc
emotions.
inflames. Yeah, but at this point, she actually doesn't know.
She
And so at
doesn't
the
know
start
that
of
he.
the book, she's just poor. This mob boss is abusing her, and she's just getting very little trace amounts of metals in the water
Yeah, just like
of the
minerals.
city. And then
And she's using her powers instinct.
yeah,
She doesn't
yeah,
know that she's a Mistborn. She just knows, what does she call it? Her luck, I
something
think.
like that.
Something
Yeah,
like that. She calls it her luck, and she's like just instinctively using her Allomancer powers.
right. But then she kind of like, there's a job that goes wrong, because like the mob boss that she's working for is like turning tricks and trying to like um defraud some nobility. And at this point, that's when she comes across Kelsier, and Kelsier's basically gang.
One,
Kelsier has his group of like Ocean's 11. Like Kelsier's kind of like George Clooney's character, right?
never seen it.
And they stumble upon her, and they can read what she is, even though she doesn't even know, because one of the other allomantic abilities is to like detect if somebody's burning a certain type of metal.
Hmm.
Um,
There's hella. We're gonna have to go over all of them at some point.
at some point, we should.
So maybe next episode we'll go over all the, because we're gonna
Yeah,
be covering all the Mistborn books. So we'll
right.
go over all of them next. So you're not lost on this shit.
Yeah, but yeah. So Kelsier basically saves her from the mob boss
Hmm.
at the same time that the mob boss is being hunted down, and essentially this whole guild of thieves is massacred by a creature called an Iron Inquisitor, or a Steel
Steel
Inquisitor.
Inquisitor, yep.
And these guys have spikes through their eyes that go out the back of their head. They're
Or
nasty. They're
Pipes.
nashy. Um, and they're like all powerful. Like, they're kind of Mistborny, but they're also really messed up. And also they adhere to a different type of magic system than just like the allomantic. Um, but yeah, so Vin, the main character, she's swept up into this gang by Kelsier of like allomancers, Kelsier being a Mistborn. She becomes Kelsier's like protege. But Kelsier, like you were saying, Eric, like he's trying to overthrow the Lord Ruler.
Hmm.
And so he's sowing dissent through the Ska class. He's spreading rumors about an 11th metal, because like everybody knows that the Lord Ruler is like super powerful. And he's saying there's not just 10 metals, that there's 11. And the 11th is the one that's going to be able to kill him. And so it's giving people hope.
So
And
everybody knows, pretty much everybody knows that there's 10 metals that Allomancers can use for like most things, and most people know what those metals are and what they do. And this 11th metal is supposed to do something that can counter the Lord Ruler.
but it's like it's meant to be sort of mysterious. But people listen to Kelsier because he's like this mythological guy who managed to escape from the pits of Hastin, which is basically a brutal internment camp that Ska gets sent to die, essentially.
They're like
Um,
working in mines, and
yeah,
the mines are.
they're working in mines for the 10th metal, and the 10th metal is like the most expensive, lucrative metal.
Yeah.
So the Lord Ruler, he controls and puts a cap on basically like he tariffs the 10th metal, which is a metal called atium, that he sells to other noble families. And that's how the Lord Ruler sort of exerts his control on the rich caste of people, is
Yeah.
he can control the flow of that. And the 10th metal atium allows people to basically see the future, like a few seconds into the future.
It's the most powerful one.
And it's the most powerful one, yeah. So like, there's a lot of like there's like houses, like the noble houses sort of sometimes go to war with each other, and there's like a lot of like squabbling, and it's sort of revealed that they're pitted against each other. And so Kelsier is basically trying to take the Lord Ruler's stash of atium to bankrupt him so that everybody kind of overthrows the Lord Ruler. At the same time, he's teaching Vin, and then Vin is essentially, she's like a spy for the noble families, you know. What else happens?
So Vin is like this meek, like she's meek, but she's still kind of dangerous. Like she grew up in like this band of thieves going from place to place. So she's learned like really good survival skills. Essentially what happens is a big part of the plan to overthrow the Lord Ruler is to have Vin, his newest protege, who's also been trained fully as a Mistborn. She is going to infiltrate the nobles and essentially gather as much information as possible so they can just have more information to take everything down, pit houses against each other. It's super important that she's able to blend in. So she's also trained in nobility, which is conflicting for her because she's, one, always hated nobility. Like they treated her like shit her whole life because she's a ska. And for two, she's a street urchin, and they basically have to turn her into a fucking belle. And
it's a little bit like, was that movie Miss Congeniality?
Yeah. A lot of the book is them training her for this and her going to balls.
Yeah, getting dressed up in dresses and learning what's proper, and it's not my favorite part of the book because it's literally, it's like her coming to terms with, oh, I gotta like get dressed up, get dolled up to go to these balls where there's like a lot of gossip and intrigue.
I feel like they could have cut a lot of it out.
Well, but she does meet her love interest.
She does.
And so of all the houses under the Lord Ruler, the most powerful is the House Venture. And House Venture, the heir to House Venture is Ellen Venture, who, unlike a lot of the other noble houses, he's like sort of a radical trying to overthrow.
He's a very fringe guy.
But he's like trying to overthrow like the status quo, but you know, the status quo of like, you know, the aristocrats, but he's also an aristocrat. And so him and Vin, they become together. Like they both read books, and you know, they have a lot of similar interests, and so somehow, you know, Vin falls in love, and he falls in love back with, you know, this girl, and she is the whole time lying. You know, she's like the niece of a noble that Kelsier's gang embedded in the nobility, but that noble himself is something called Kandra, which isn't really him, but it's also not really talked about in book one. Like the Kandra are just like, you just know that this guy pretending to be her uncle that's a noble is not the actual guy. You know, but there's not really any explanation for that. Go ahead. I was just going to say, but also while she's staying with her uncle, she's being trained by a man named Sazed, who is a ferrochemist. Ferrochemists seem like they're the dark-skinned people of this planet, and they have like a very different culture. It's called the terrace culture, and oh, that's actually what he is first and foremost. Is he's terrace. He's a terraceman, which terracemen are considered a different ethnicity, but they're like an ethnicity that usually serves. And he's a ferrochemist, which is a different magic system based on wearing metals instead of ingesting them. And by wearing metals, they can do other things like go faster, and they can store memories in pieces of metal. It depends. Whatever metal they're wearing has a specific attribute.
Yeah, with ferrochemy, you have to, instead of getting the power from the metal, you have to stock the power into the metal to be able to use it in bulk if you want to at a later time. So for instance, there's gold that they can wear, and with gold you can store health in it. So what you'll have to do is you'll have to make the conscious decision to be storing health. So your actual health in real life will be declined. You'll be sick. You'll be like, it'll be like you got hit with a crazy ass fucking pneumonia or whatever for however long you want, because you're storing health in your, like what they call the metal mines. You're storing health in your gold metal mine. And so at any point in time, say you get like really fucking injured, say you get like cut like really bad, you can use your stock of health that you stored to basically instantly heal that. And it is limited based on how much you put into it, but there's all types of different ones that you can use. There's like health, like you were saying, health, speed, strength, shit like that.
Yeah, but that's the only one in book one is like Sazed that can do this.
Yeah,
that we know of initially.
Yeah.
At the same time that like Vin is like going to these balls, she's also like testing her abilities as a Mistborn. At one point she manages to like sneak into the Lord Ruler's castle and steal like a book that he had in there. And at that point she's like almost killed by the Steel Inquisitors. It's like a crazy fight, like all aerial battles up on the spire. She narrowly gets out.
In this bug.
Yeah, the fight scenes are cool. I mean, part of the reason why we talk so much about the magic system is it's such a like hard magic system that like it wouldn't make sense to be like because all of the fighting happens within these magic systems. You have steel push, or what is it? What do we say? Steel push, iron pull.
Push, iron
pull.
So
you know, like she shoots coins at these Steel Inquisitors. The Steel Inquisitors like float around and are like just monsters. You know, they're just like juggernauts.
It's kind of, honestly, it was a little bit tough for me to understand like what they were doing. Like Alamancy was a bit tough for me to get at first, especially with them like with their like traversal shit, like them like basically kind of flying around.
Yeah, like
that was for me to pick up on. To really
Vin flies on, what is it, like railroad ties in the ground
to the future.
But that's how she gets to Luthadel. That's how they travel. So like very early, Kelsier and her are traveling through the mists on these, like by pushing off of these metal spikes in the ground to keep them like levitating essentially forward.
Yeah.
But she gets this journal, and so over the course of the rest of the book, she comes to realize that the Lord Ruler is a terraceman, and he was like this prophesized hero who was going to save the world like way, way back. Kelsier, the hero of ages. Kelsier dies. He attacks. So as he's like gathering these Ska, a bunch of Ska in his army get killed. So Kelsier goes and tries to attack the Lord Ruler as he like gets out there, and it doesn't go well. The fucking Lord Ruler murders him.
Slap the shit out of him.
And in public, but it also creates a martyr out of Kelsier. And this is essentially what Kelsier has been wanting from the start anyways. And so it's like a whole where like they're mourning him, but now the Ska, after they had already lost a lot of their army, are now like even more motivated to overthrow the Lord Ruler, because now like Kelsier's dead,
Yeah.
and he represents all of their hopes and dreams. And yes, I mean, it gets crazy. Kelsier's brother, who was part of the gang, he gets captured and is turned into a Steel Inquisitor.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the finale of the book, there's like an epic battle between Vin, the Lord Ruler. She manages to burn this secret metal that shows her the possible pasts of the Lord Ruler, and the Lord Ruler which doesn't end up being as helpful as she thinks, but
Yeah, it wasn't like a fucking
it wasn't like,
magic beam or something.
yeah,
Or just the fuck out. It was the information that she got from using it.
right.
Which
And go ahead.
I was just gonna say, which I can't remember the name of the metal that she burned, the 11th metal. I just called it the 11th metal. It let her see a different version of the Lord Ruler. And from that, she was able to put together that not only was he like a terraceman, like Sazed was, he wasn't exactly the hero of ages.
Right.
That was written about in the history, but in his book, he was actually the person who was trying to kill the hero. Oh, he did kill the hero.
He
of
did
ages.
kill. He was assisting the hero of
He
ages.
was helping him, kinda. He hated him the whole time. He was a big hater,
Yeah.
and he was hating on him the whole time. And eventually, he killed him and stole the power that he was going to take to make the world better. And essentially, the Lord Ruler made the world in basically however he wanted to with that power.
Right. And that's how you get the modern world
That's how you get what the world is right now.
and that's sort of like it. I mean, like Vin manages to like separate the Lord Ruler from his ferochemist Bangles.
Yeah.
And then that's how she like manages.
We find out that he's a ferochemist and an allomancer.
Right.
That's how he's so powerful. He's able to fuel his own metal mine, which gives him an infinite amount of youth, an infinite amount of strength.
Right.
Like he's able to do things that no one else on this planet could do.
Right. And that's book one.
Does make him a god.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he is a god, and I mean, getting into the larger cosmeric, he is a holder of the. No, he's not a shard holder.
No, he's not a shard.
Okay. But he fought back. Basically, we find that he transformed this world to fight back an evil force called the Deepness. And that's sort of like where it ends the book. It's like the Ocean's 11 crew are now sort of helping Vin's love interest, Elend, rule over Scadrial. But yeah, that's book one.
That's book one. Great book.
It's a lot. It's really good, but it's a lot of like really just getting acquainted with the magic systems and the history.
It gets a little slow. It gets a little slow in the middle.
Well, the balls are very slow. It's like her getting dressed up and not having a good time at parties.
But overall, let me see what I rated this one. Let's see. Goodreads.
I gave it a 4.
A 4 out of what?
5?
Oh, a 4 out of 5. Red. But the Final Empire, I gave it a 3 out of 5.
Okay.
Like, kind of middle.
Yeah.
And this is fresh off my reading of
Stormlight
book 2.
Right. Which is a big change of pace. Stormlight is like
I got a motherfucking
high epic fantasy, and yeah, Mistborn is like more of an entry point into the cosmere, and Stormlight is like the meat. But Mistborn, I think, is still good, especially as it goes on.
Oh yeah, book 2 and book 3, amazing.
Yeah.
like a miss
and some really cool fights.
great shit. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's Mistborn book 1.
That's Mistborn book 1. And now to wrap up the pod real quick, you have any book recommendations?
Yeah. A book that I recently read that I would recommend y'all reading, and to be honest, it's not like, the best book ever. There's some story issues, but it's a good read, I think. I think like the series is pretty good. The second book of the series is good. It's called Red Rising. It's about a guy who's from Mars. He is a lower class citizen and he wants to take some shit over. It's kind of similar to Mistborn, but and I'm not gonna lie,
Hey, class
it's very
struggle,
similar.
it really gets you going.
But yeah, Red Rising. I can't think of the author's name right now, but we're wrapping it up, so we'll talk about it later.
We'll put it in the comments.
Yeah,
My book is Black Food. My girlfriend got it for me at some point in the past.
Black Food.
It's
Damn, that
called
cover's fire.
Black Food by Brian Terry. It's a cookbook. It's really tight. There's a lot of like just really good essays, like really compelling essays about like Black culture and the foods that come from Black cultures, and then also just a lot of like Black food from across the world.
Yeah,
There's some Jamaican inspired Caribbean food, and then there's also
that
like
was
some
dope.
East African food. So check it out.
Sick. But yeah,
That's the pod.
that's the pod.
That's that Grimoire gang. You know what I'm saying?
Grimoire, you've been
GG.
Grimoire King.
Yeah, you've been
Wait,
you've been
don't
been
say it.
gang. All
Don't
right,
say it. Don't say it.
GG. We'll stick with GG.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, keep
But
it
yeah,
wholesome.
like I said, I'm Eric. Find me on Twitter, Twitch, TikTok at IndigoFather100. Um, Omega,
Marcus, follow me. Omega Marcussis for some art.
yeah,
Follow the Grimoire gang TikTok and Instagram
yeah. Tune in. We got,
every Tuesday at 5 p.m.
yeah, bam.
One last thing for all the TikTokers out there. The Kid Mistborn summary. Eric, go.
Go? Oh fuck. Okay, so damn. All right.
Vin,
Start out.
Mistborn.
Javier, Vin. They're both Mistborns. They can control metal and shit. They're slaves. They want to kill God, and then they do.
Kelsier dies, though.
Kelsier dies. Vin doesn't.
Vin's a dirty
How much time we got left?
poor
need
girl. You had 10 seconds, and you...
Fuck.
It's over. That's it.